Welcome back to another episode here, Persuasion by the Pint. Jonathan Taylor, along with
Sean McCool.
Sean. We are sporting something pretty cool today, huh? We got
You surprised me with this little gift today when I walked in. It's very nice.
Yeah, so we thought we would get our own T-shirts made up for the show with our logo and everything.
So that's what all good startups do, right?
Of course.
You have to have a T-shirt.
That's right. You got to have a T-shirt with a clever saying by Plato.
Yes. Which it says...
Can you read it upside down?
I cannot read Roman font upside down.
He is a wise man who invented beer.
Yes.
Now, we're not really sure if Plato actually said that or not. We just pulled it off the internet.
So it must be true.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, we're on episode 23. So we are moving right along into, I think, chapter 8, Breakthrough Advertising.
Yep.
Where we're getting into identification.
Yep. So we're going to talk about how to make your product or service more than a product or service. Like how to really
give it some character.
Take it up a notch.
Yeah.
So, but before we do that,
you're bringing.
I went on a road trip,
delicious beer, yeah,
and brought home some handcrafted beer from Texas. I was down in Austin for a client. So while I was there, I was like, I'm going to go to the big H-E-B store, which is its own little universe by itself, and at least the one I went to over in Lakeway, Texas, and found 3 good beers, all dark beers, of course. That seems to be our thing on the show. So this one is called Strange Land Brewery,
right,
out of Bee Caves, Texas.
Interesting.
And this is a porter, entire porter. I don't know if I'm saying that. That's what it looks like to me, but it could be some
entire
fancy
porter.
Yeah, like naturally canned conditioned is what the.
So this is locally brewed. What's that town again?
Bee Caves. It's in Bee Caves. It's on Bee Caves Road in Austin. I think there is like a bee, like Bumblebee.
Yeah,
there's like a Bee Caves, kind of like suburb outside of Austin. So
good, a good Austin brew.
Yes,
we're gonna test it. Now,
it's either good or weird, depending.
Yeah. So we were you mentioned you couldn't find many in a bottle, so you brought these back in the can.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's like the whole section in the refrigeration section there was all cans. Like there was hardly any bottles that were local brews from Austin.
Well,
so I've already tasted it several times.
Okay.
While on the road, not on the road, but while away.
That's a long trip. You got to...
I didn't Camelback.
Well, it's bottoms up. Cheers.
Yeah. Nice porter.
It is.
Yeah.
That's good.
They get a little weirder as we go.
Yeah.
So those of you watching, listening, the next 2 episodes, we'll cover some more. And one's like a mocha coffee and another.
Yeah.
So that'll be good. But yeah, this is good. This is just a good straight
it's
porter.
It just
nothing
fancy about it. No chocolate flavors or
just
coffee. It's just straight porter.
I think it says on the can, bold, robust, and heroic. So
I like
what more could you ask for from a beer?
I did notice, and I don't know if it's the can thing. We were talking about it earlier.
Yeah.
Like, not much of a head when you poured it. So
yeah, not at all. It was just poured. It's like oil.
Yeah.
It's a little thick in a good way. I mean, I like it.
Yeah, it's very good.
All right. Shall we jump in?
Yes, let's do it.
Shall we persuade and influence, or at least teach people how?
I think that would be a good thing to I haven't had too many beers already, so I just got a little tongue tied there. But yeah, it would be a good thing to pursue. There we go.
All right. So we talked the last chapter we talked about in Breakthrough Advertising was intensification. So amplifying the intensity, the desire that people have for your product. So this one we're talking about identification. And we've touched on this before. But like all good, important things, like you have to be reminded of this stuff over and over. It's easy to just forget about this and not include it in your sales materials and your marketing. So identification is pulling out the things in your product. So there's two parts that we'll talk about. One is pulling out the functional things in your product that people would want. Mm-hmm. And then there's another whole level that is just flat out made up.
Yeah.
That you want to tie to your product. And that is people's, how they want to be seen in the world. They want to be seen as successful. They want to be seen as thrifty. They want to be seen as whatever. So that is the type of identification that we're really talking about here.
So we're not looking at just the function of a product of it in and of itself. What the benefit, even when we talk about the benefits, talk about the features and benefits, we can talk about the benefits all day long, but then you've got to go a step further and tie those benefits into something that they can envision. How does it benefit them, or what is the image that it creates for them that they're looking to achieve?
Right. So,
time out. Let me turn this.
So if you're live watching, the eighth. Whoa. We've got some new technology going on, and trying to stream live here. AC kicked on, and meanwhile, Jonathan is trying to figure out why his phone just decided to start broadcasting loudly in the same room, and I can hear myself. Echo. So if you're with us live, you get to see that raw. If you're not,
all the joys of technology, right on live video.
Push button easy. You just don't know which button and how many to press. Yeah. So
before we got interrupted by the air conditioning.
Yeah. So the way he says it in here, it's the desire that what you're trying to get people to identify with is the desire of your prospect to define himself to the world around him, to express the qualities within himself that he values and the positions he's attained. So how do you do this? There's two basic ways. First, you turn your product into an instrument for achieving those roles, those things that he wants. And then second, by turning that product into an acknowledgement that these roles, that he's already fulfilled these roles. Mm-hmm. So there's two parts. Part one is we're going to help him get to that status, that identity that he wants, whether, like I said, whether it's super successful or super thrifty or, good mom or incredible business person or doctor, whatever it is, you're going to help them get there, or you're going to help them show to the world by your product being on their shelf or in their driveway or whatever, that they have already achieved this. Yep. So that's the two basic categories that we're talking about. And this seems like, oh yeah, of course, but very few people do this intentionally, other than maybe, I think this is one place though where the big brands kind of get it right. Mm-hmm. They miss a lot of the other stuff we've talked about.
Oh, they do.
But they do a really good job of, especially the higher end big brands. They do a great job of.
One that comes to mind is golf clubs. I mean, how many sets of golf clubs do golfers go through in a given lifetime? Just because, I mean, you got one set that could probably last them 10 years, but a good golfer, a scratch golfer, or someone that's looking to achieve or looking to become a scratch golfer, if he can gain a 2 strokes, on his game, and he thinks, there's a great a brand out there that's marketing a new driver or a new 3-wood that's all the rage, that's going to get him the distance that he needs. They picture him, automatically. It's their marketing is brilliant, and they're helping him picture that, him shaving those strokes off of his game, so that he's going to be able to get that much better. So
so he's back at the clubhouse, the 19th hole.
And people
raising
are
a
just,
glass.
yeah.
Because you're like, he's done it, you know? It's like that. And, you know, the other group that's really good at this from a different angle is just the drug companies. And how there's two tracks going on in any drug commercial. There's like the pictures that are going on, which are kind of distracting from a lot of the, you know, all the things that could happen to you, you know, growing a third head and all that stuff that get the side effects. But they paint this kind of picture of this is where you are, and then they start getting better. The happy families, the friends, the whatever, and all that stuff is kind of, you know, put into your mind while you're watching that. So yeah, the high end brands do a really good job of this, and there are some other, you know, brands, you know, charities. You know, if you're an animal lover and they send you, you know, what does SPCA send you? They send you a T-shirt that says you support the Humane Society, right? So why do we wear T-shirts like that? It's because we want to be identified on some level as a person who cares about animals and takes care of animals.
Absolutely.
Right. So there's an identification there. That's why T-shirts are so popular today with startups and with brands, is because you get that sense of identification that people are looking for.
Yeah, people want, and I think that's why, you know, again, we can get into social media and everything. You know, people, you know, share things on social media. People want to, you know, demonstrate what they're wearing because it brings some type of identification, whatever that identification be. And we see it all the time, but social media, people try to portray a certain image. And
Lululemon, you know,
right.
Do you really need a $150 pair of tights? Probably not.
Exactly.
But you'll pay for them because that's what the cool people wear, right?
Absolutely.
And then you've got other people who, you know, they'll go to the other end and they'll be like, you know, I only wear, you know, tech gear or whatever,
right?
Because they, you know, want to be seen that way or whatever, or they don't want to be seen. So that's the other thing. A good identification with your brand can also repel the wrong customer.
Yeah.
Which is important. We want to make sure that you're repelling somebody in the marketplace, or else you're not really attracting anyone.
No.
You know, I thought of like a Nest thermostat, right? You don't really need one, but if you have one, it kind of is that early adopter still.
Yeah.
They're getting more popular, but they're still pretty rare. Like, so when you see one, you walk in somebody's house, you're like, oh, that's a Nest thermostat. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right? So, and that's what the people want. I'm sure there's somebody out there that wants them for their efficiency, but I think it's pretty good. So some of the ideas that come to mind, some of the words that he's used, and we can add some to it. Just so when you buy a product, you might be looking to be up to date, like a Nest, or youthful, or you know, in shape. Like if you know the fact that you go to CrossFit, right? Not even wearing a T-shirt or anything, but just the fact that you go to CrossFit,
right.
You know, there's a certain image that you're letting people know about when you say, yeah, I go to CrossFit, instead of, you know, 24-hour fitness or Planet Fitness,
right.
You know, which is a totally different culture.
Yeah.
Adventurous, sophisticated, you know, entrepreneur is a tag that is an identification tag. You know, I just came from a conference full of entrepreneurs,
right.
And they wear that badge proudly.
Oh, yeah. What is it? What's the company GoRuck too? I mean, that's a pretty cool example. You know, people want to identify with that. You know, you see a lot of people that are probably a lot of former, and I don't know this for sure, but I would say probably a lot of former military people in there that want to identify. You know, go out, do the ruck march like they used to back in the day, or people that love backpacking and things like that. So
and there's a subtle, or maybe not so subtle culture with GoRuck. You know, there's it's getting together with friends, doing something physical, and drinking beer. Like there's beer in every ruck. You know, that's that's just part of the culture.
Right.
You know, so it's you know, it's kind of an anti-fitness almost type movement, even though it's fitness. It's more like, we don't do the gym thing. You know, we go out and we just walk for miles. You know. And it's hard, and it sucks. I mean, one of their things is embrace the suck. Right? There's this whole culture of it's really hard,
right?
You know, all that stuff. So those, and having those for your company makes a huge difference because people want to. So, you know, with GoRuck, we'll just stay with that example for a minute. Like they make really good rucksacks and backpacks.
Yeah.
They're pricey, but they last a long time.
Yep.
But what people really want to do is identify with that crowd.
Yeah.
Right. So it doesn't matter that the ruck can carry 40 or 50 pounds or that it can't, as much as, it creates this sense of community for a lot of people.
Yep.
And like you said, a lot of...
You get the patch on there and you're like, oh yeah, you identify.
Every event has a patch. Instead of a t-shirt or a medal, there's a patch. And it's amazing what people will do for that patch.
Oh, I know.
I mean, absolutely incredible.
It's again, going
Myself
back to...
included.
Yeah, I know. You've done it out in Washington, right?
Yeah.
Pretty lengthy. But yeah, I mean, just that patch, that it identifies you with others that, and it's that level of achievement. I mean, you see yourself, people want that, like you said, people want that patch to show I've accomplished something. And so they identify.
And I'm part of this group.
I'm part of, exactly. All the way.
I was at the conference I was at, the Capitalism Conference out in Dallas, Texas, this last week. I was sitting in the back, and the guy, like in a couple rows in front of me, he had a Go Ruck right there. And they're pretty easy to spot. Like if you're in that culture, you know what a Go Ruck ruck looks like. And sure, so I looked at it. It's actually the same ruck I have, same color and everything. He had his patch on it. And so I was able to go up immediately and start a conversation, just by saying, hey, nice ruck. And immediately there's a connection there.
Absolutely.
In the middle of this totally different type of conference, we could connect.
That's sweet.
So, and immediately I saw him as a guy who's obviously into fitness, doesn't mind drinking beer. And like I was like, I like this guy.
Yeah. He checked out. Yeah, exactly. Automatically. That symbolized that he was a part of that group, checked all the lists. So,
yeah. So like we said, there's basically two roles that your product can play. And one is to define the character of the person, or one is to express the achievement that they've already accomplished. So let's go through those two. Let's do the character first. So these are things like, I'm progressive, I'm charming, I'm brilliant, I'm well-read, I'm a fitness fanatic, or whatever. So basically what this... there's a couple ways to break this down. Three basic ways to break this down. Number one, you can help them achieve mastery in that role. Yeah. So let's say they're a reader. Is the example he uses here. They want to be into philosophy, right? Because they want to be seen as someone who's well read and understands philosophy. So your product can help them achieve the mastery of being someone who knows philosophy. Second, it could help. Maybe there's a course or there's something on how to understand philosophy. So you could help them speed up the mastery instead of having to figure it out all by themselves. And then third is the symbol of that mastery. The fact that maybe you create, like you've got on your table here, The Art of War. It's a nice book and it's laid out on your coffee table. So you want people to think you're Japanese and
absolutely
and you understand that book.
When people walk in here, hey, look at that.
Okay? Underneath the peanuts, there's the book Art of War. But, it's a nice book. So if it's out, it says something about you. Right. And, that's one of the first things I do when I go to someone's house is if they have a bookshelf.
Look at what they're reading.
I'll look at some of the stuff
that tells you everything.
Yeah, I can get a lot of information about, same in sales. I know when you go into offices.
Look for you're exactly right. Always identify the things that are on their wall and the books that are on their shelf.
Yeah, books, the pictures, do they have a picture of a yacht on their wall? What is that? That's a symbol of achievement for them, either whether they're striving for it or whether they've already achieved it if it's their yacht. So those types of clues. Yeah. And that's a good way, that's something that you can find out from your customers is to you can do a survey, that's probably a book we should add to our list is Ask by Ryan Levesque.
Yes.
Where you can just literally ask people about all these different nuances of their behavior to find out more about them. So, and here's something cool he said, and this is a little bit more obvious now than it was when he wrote the book, but he says in here that at least half of all purchases made today cannot be understood in terms of function alone. It's more about these roles
Yeah.
of the symbols and what it represents. And I would say that's probably up to 80% of why
I would
people
say
buy
so.
it.
I mean, especially with the way stories are so used today in marketing and so many products today where they utilize that.
Yep. So number 2 is the achievement role.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what you've achieved or who you are in the
Yep.
world, as opposed to the type of person you are. This is what you've achieved, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the type of person was, I'm progressive, I'm well read, I'm a fitness fanatic. Whereas another one might be, I'm an executive, I'm in the C-suite, I'm a homeowner, I have a 5 handicap. You were talking about golf earlier, or fashion setter, career woman, civic leader, patron of the arts is some of the things that he, or entrepreneur, writer. Mm-hmm. Lots of different categories you could go on forever, and and there's probably 2 or 3 in your market as you're listening to this or watching this that you should be able to pull out pretty quickly, and there's probably 4 or 5 more, and then there's going to be some cross sections. Yeah. Of people.
Well, I think of things like this, and it's like people. How do you? So people think, or how do you take a common object and let's take, for example, a pen, an everyday pen. I mean, you can buy a big pen.
You go all Wolf of Wall Street on me and ask me to sell you this pen.
You've seen the.
We got to get the movie reference.
Oh, I know exactly. But yeah, a common pen. I mean, you can go to Office Depot and buy a pack of pens for $5. But there are companies out there selling $200 Mont Blanc roller ball or fountain pens. And what are they trying? What is a big part of their marketing is trying to help their consumer or their customer, their prospect, understand the identification with having a Mont Blanc pen, and what that status, link that to a status where, CEO, executive, salesperson. These people are
not only my salesperson, I'm really good.
Yeah.
And when I pull out my pen to ask you to sign,
that's right.
You're going to know you've met your match.
That's right.
I mean, that's right. All kind of part of the thing, right?
Because no one pulls out a Bic.
No. Well, some people probably do,
but that's the image they portray. A professional doesn't use, a plastic pen with a cap. They use a fine writing instrument. Whether that's
the guy at the local bank does, though, because I just came from the bank. We had to do some paperwork and stuff.
Oh, really? And click.
Here you go.
He used a click pen, huh? Oh well.
I was like, thanks. So, but he's not worried about that.
No,
he's got a position at the bank, and he's just kind of the guy at the bank. He's not, and it's not like a special services bank or family bank or anything like that. It's just
status. I would assume status is probably not high
big on his list.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
Definitely not. So, so here's a great this one sentence kind of sums up the whole thing. We could have done a 15-second podcast.
Yeah.
It says, we are known not only by the company we keep, but by the products we own.
Yeah.
And whether you like that or not, it's true. Like people, they'll make judgments based on the clothes you wear. They'll make judgments based on the neighborhood you live in, the car you drive, the type of jeans you wear.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting is like the people who care about that stuff notice, and the people who don't know. Right. So like I use this example a lot, but so my wife drives a Lexus IS 250 F Sport. So it's kind of their entry level sports car. It's actually one of their entry level cars, period. But it looks nice. White, super pretty, red interior, looks like a nice sports car, and it's got a Lexus badge on it, right?
Right.
And she likes that. She likes the status and things that does. I drive a black Ford F-150. It's got some, new wheels on it, different wheels, not factory stock, and a couple of little, it's blacked out, things like that.
It's what my wife calls a chick magnet.
Yeah. If people don't know cars, they think she's got the nicer car, just kind of looks, and they recognize the Lexus brand, and they would think that she spent more on the car.
Right.
Fact is, my truck costs like twice as much as her car.
Exactly.
But everybody, and people that know that know, and people that don't, they don't care.
Right.
But and those two cars say very different things about who I want to portray,
exactly,
and who she wants to portray. Right?
Exactly.
I want to be the cool guy.
Right.
That's my name anyway.
Yeah.
McCool.
McCool.
You know, and she likes, you know, another great example is handbags, handbags, not purses.
Yeah.
Like handbags is the
there
proper
you go.
term.
Now you got it.
You know, whether you carry a Louis Vuitton or Michael Kors, or you go up to Burberry or some of these other high-end brands that are $5,000, $6,000, $10,000, $20,000 for a handbag, you know, that's definitely a status thing. Watches is another.
Yeah.
Phones, you know, are you an iPhone or an Android user?
Yep.
And, you know, Android users don't want to be Apple users, a lot of them.
Oh, yeah. My son, I've got a 13-year-old who despises, I think his sole goal in life is to destroy
Sounds
Apple.
like my son. Like he will not own a Mac. He's got a PC. He's got an Android phone.
Right.
Like he won't be a Mac fanboy, as he calls
that's
it.
what my son says the same thing, fanboy.
So those, I mean, that's the two big roles that your product, when you get past features, past benefits, you start looking towards identification of, you know, what character traits do these people want to identify, and what achievements do they want to show off to the world. So what?
Same reason we don't drink Budweiser on this podcast.
We're craft brew guys, even though we have no idea how it's done.
Well, cool.
You want to stop there? You want to?
Yeah, I think that's a good stopping point.
All right. So on the next one, we'll talk about kind of how to apply these, how to put them to work.
Yeah, I think so. That'd be good.
But this is important stuff, and it's easy to overlook. Seems obvious, but it's really not. And I think you'll start seeing, as you listen to this, you'll start seeing this in more and more products, and hopefully you've had some aha moments about your own product or service.
Right.
And this can work with services too. It doesn't have to be just products.
Yeah. So, you know, the goal is, and we'll get into practical application on the next podcast, but always be thinking, you know, on with your products or services, you know, what do you want your customer, your prospects to identify? You know, what status? What do you want to put them in terms of identification? How do you want to identify themselves when they're using your product or your service? And, you know, think beyond just the functional aspect of that. What are they getting? That's one aspect. But, you know, a lot of times people just stop right there and they don't go a step further, that what this means, you know, for their self-image, or what this means for their net worth, or the way people look at you, and so forth. So.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be, I just want to reiterate this point as we wrap, but it doesn't have to be high-end.
No.
Like there's entire markets that frugal is good, and you know, practical, and you know, whatever the opposite of all those are. You know, and there's the middle of the road. There's just kind of the average Joe brands. There's you know, all that. I mean, that's that appeals to some people. So you don't have to go high end to make this work.
Yeah, it's funny. I went to a real estate conference a few days ago. Actually over the weekend, but I noticed, you know, a lot of the people that were a part of the conference or that were attending were already big real estate investors, but they were not the kind of people that identified themselves or put themselves up on a pedestal. They're always people that tend to be, you know, investors that are kind of tight with money.
Millionaire next door.
Exactly. That came to mind immediately when I went to this, was the millionaire next door. Every one of them, probably most of the people in the room that I went to, probably had a net worth of $5 to $10 million in real estate. But they were, if you looked at them, some of them dressed like they, you know, like you would look at them and think,
khakis and white tennis shoes.
Khakis. Some of them had jean shorts. I mean, one guy, in fact, one real estate investor, and I won't mention his name, but he's pretty well known. He does a lot. He speaks at a lot of conferences, and he was actually attending this, was wearing, you know, jean shorts and a T-shirt.
Yeah.
And when they broke for lunch, he's like, I'm going to McDonald's, you know. That was like, you know, people, you know, or
brown paper bag.
Or brown paper. Exactly. Yeah, but, you know, it's just, and so some people just, you know, be thinking, like you just said, don't always assume that you're your target audience wants to identify a certain way or a certain on a certain pedestal,
And it is all made up.
Yeah.
We said that, but that part of it, what your brand represents, is completely made up, and that's based on how you craft your marketing,
Absolutely.
which is where we'll go in the next episode.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thanks for listening. As always, you can find us persuasionbythepint.com. Again, what's the name of our brew? I want to mention it one more time.
Strangeland Brewery.
Strangeland Brewery.
Out of Austin.
Very good. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you on the next episode. Have a great week.
See ya.